What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be talking about the Bikeriders. So let's get into that. Hi, my name is Leo. If you guys like talking about movies, TV shows, video game related, or just anything nerdy, you have come to the right place. And like I said, today we're talking about the Bikeriders. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Now, the Bikeriders is based off of a book called The Bikeriders that is based off of the Outlaw Motorcycle Club, which is one of the oldest motorcycle clubs in the world. I believe they are still running to this day. So it's one of the oldest motorcycle clubs ever. And the Bikeriders are not called the Outlaws in this movie. They're called the Vandals, just kind of loosely based off of the book and loosely based off of the events of the motorcycle club itself. However, it's still kind of giving you that true story flavor to it, and kind of the uprising of this motorcycle club, how they kind of came to be, the different stages of the motorcycle club's life, and how they grew and expanded across different states, and how the club started changing and everything like that, and some of our main people that started the club off way back in the day, and just kind of how their characters evolve as well. But before I give you my thoughts about the Bikeriders, let me know what you guys thought about it in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear our guys' thoughts on this movie. This was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and it's time to let you know if it held up to my expectations. Now, starting off with the positives, I love pretty much every single character in this movie. You know, Tom Hardy does amazing as Johnny, which is like the president of this motorcycle club. We also have Austin Butler, who plays Benny, who he kind of seems to be the main central character besides his wife. This movie didn't, it wasn't exactly what I expected of how it was going to be telling the story. It tells the story of Benny's wife, and she's kind of being interviewed throughout the entire movie about someone that used to ride with the Vandals, and he kind of wanted to always make a book. He wanted to always write a book and about the motorcycle club and their adventures and stuff like that. So it kind of gets told in a story where he comes back after he's gone to New York, and he's just interviewing Benny's wife to kind of get a little bit more information about the motorcycle club as a whole. And so she kind of becomes the more central character, because a lot of the monologue and a lot of the dialogue gets thrown onto Benny's wife, and she's the one that's talking most of all, I believe, throughout the entire film. I think she has the most lines of dialogue, but other than that, Benny is kind of the central character within the actual club itself. So I do like Tom Hardy as Johnny. I love Benny, played by Austin Butler. We even had Norman Reeves in here as well. Norman Reedus, excuse me, in here as well. He plays kind of like a member of a different club from California. He doesn't have a huge role, but I do like his presence. He's pretty fun. And just even all the side characters of the club, they're all pretty fun, all different unique performances. I think across the board are actually done pretty well. I also enjoy kind of the vibe of this movie. You definitely feel like you're in this era, back in the day in Chicago, where this kind of club kind of spanned from, and you definitely feel that. It definitely feels old time, even like the way the motorcycles are, the way they dress, hairstyles, the way they talk. You feel that, that nostalgia from being back in that era. So I definitely like the world building they do, and they do the world building pretty fast. And just kind of showing you, different parts of the Bikeriders, the motorcycle club's life, and just different parts of different eras and stuff, and how they grew over time. One of the main reasons why this is one of my most anticipated movies of this year is because I love the shows like Sons of Anarchy as well as Mayans, and I was expecting to this be basically a movie version of those shows, and you get glimpses of that. You get the different meets where they're out and about and just having like family time, but they're all riding their motorcycles, getting into fights, starting trouble, drinking, smoking, just causing a muck, and you get kind of some of that flavor, even kind of more of the menacing side of Johnny when Benny gets hurt. And you see this in the trailer, he tells him to burn the bar down because he hurt one of his club members. You kind of get those menacing moments as well. Even kind of just the family aspect of it, how everybody in the club is kind of like one big family, and they kind of treat it as such, and everybody takes care of each other. And obviously things kind of go out of hand as the movie kind of progresses, but overall, you do get some of that vibe where you get in like something like Sons of Anarchy or in Mayans, and you have some of those flavors sprinkled here throughout the entire film, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And lastly, I think this movie was just shot beautifully. It was directed beautifully. It has a nice score to it, a nice soundtrack. So overall, visually, this movie is very, very pleasing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I still had a good enough time with this film. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Obviously, we'll get a little more of that into the cons. But overall, as an experience, I think the movie does what it's supposed to do, and what it was trying to do, I think it does it very well. And we'll get into why I'm not a big fan of what it was doing, but overall, it was just shot beautifully. It was entertaining. I loved a lot of the characters. I loved a lot of the scenes and different sequences that happened here that were really entertaining and fun. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the cons. And one of my biggest cons is kind of partly my fault. I was expecting, like I said, this to be a Sons of Anarchy Mayans into a movie, which this kind of takes a different approach of it. Like I said, the main plot line is you're following, Benny's wife as she's getting interviewed for this book, and you're just kind of seeing different sequences of the club's life and kind of where everything kind of gets thrown out, off the rails, and where things go awry, or how the club got bigger, or how the club started, different relationships. And it just shows you snippets, like this movie to me felt like there was not a singular through line throughout the entire film. It was just snippets of the club's life, and while it was still entertaining and was fun to watch overall, well, the snippets that you get are super entertaining. You get like motorcycle riding, fighting, all this different stuff, drinking, bar, comedy, relationship stuff. And then you kind of get into the in-between stages where it feels like it's just dragged out, and it gets a little boring at times, and it just doesn't meet the expectations of what you feel like, a motorcycle club movie would be like. But I do admit that that's partly my fault as well, because the way this movie is taken in a place and an era before motorcycle clubs got to that level of being like Sons of Anarchy and being like Mayans. This was very grounded, and before that time, before there was motorcycle clubs everywhere, and it was, clubs versus clubs and all out war and stuff versus different clubs and stuff. So it's kind of like that brink right before all that kind of happened. So it's a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more grounded, and it's a lot more about, the dialogue and, how the club came to be. It's kind of an origin story of the club in a sense, if you want to see it that way. It's not all about the gun running, the drug running, murdering and all this different kinds of stuff. And that's not what this movie is about. So that's kind of my expectations when I came into this, was it's going to be like Sons of Anarchy, but in a movie, only based in, back in the day. So while my expectations of what the movie was going to be wasn't met, I still think what they did, while it was executed, I think pretty good, it felt to be a little too dragged out. It felt like certain sequences that didn't have any significance. There wasn't a reason for things to happen, from what it felt like. And there's a lot of moments like that where you're watching this and I'm like, why did I just spend a couple of minutes watching the sequence? It doesn't feel like it has a significance to the entire story as a whole. And that's kind of what the entire movie kind of feels like. It's just insignificant. There's no reason. Once you get into the third act, there's certain things that kind of matter to the overall future of the club, but everything before that just feels significant. And it I don't know. There's just something about it that just felt like it was stretched out too much. It didn't mean anything. There was a lot of good things about it. There's a lot of great sequences that absolutely captured me, and I loved watching it. There were so many great, sequences that were pretty funny. There were so many capturing sequences. There were so many intense sequences, things that actually was what I wanted. Is just they were so spread apart from each other, and all the things in between were so boring that this movie, like again, just felt like it was almost 3 hours long. It just felt like it overstayed its welcome, and that's a bit unfortunate for this movie, especially something that I was very, very excited to see. But overall, let me know what you guys thought about the Bikeriders in the comment section down below. I had a good enough time with it. It's not exactly what I was expecting, but it was definitely a fun watch overall. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. And remember, if you guys like talking about movies, TV shows, or video game related, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you guys on the next review. Thanks. Thank you.